Hello. I'm here to answer two frequently asked questions, which are why didn't Ironhide join the main cast, and why didn't Bulkhead leave the main cast? So for those of you who are unfamiliar with my channel in the context of this video, for the last year or so, I have been animating a fourth season of Transformers Animated based on my own scripts, which take loose inspiration from the original Season 4 plans laid out in the Allspark Almanac, as well as Transformers Collectors Club issue number 71. In those plans, it states that Ironhide would have joined the main cast, whereas Bulkhead and Sorry would have stayed behind on Cybertron. So then the question becomes, why did I make those changes? And there's actually a lot of reasons for it. And we'll tackle Ironhide first. So there's plenty of reasons why it would make sense for him to join the cast. First of all, Ironhide is a major legacy character who's been in just about every continuity and iteration of the Transformers brand. And in addition, this would mirror the cast of the 2007 Michael Bay movie, and I see the appeal in that. However, none of these reasons make sense within the context of Transformers Animated specifically. Both of these instances are trying to connect to the broader franchise rather than focusing on the show itself, focusing on the here and now. So don't worry, we're gonna talk specifically about why this doesn't make sense for Transformers Animated in a moment, but for the time being, I just want to further elaborate on and discuss what I mean by connecting to the franchise over focusing on the here and now. A great example of what I'm referring to is the DC CW shows, in which characters would constantly leave their original series to feature in a different show and not really come back. Specifically, Leonard Snart / Captain Cold was introduced in season 1 of The Flash, and I believe he was in roughly every 4th episode. He was a pretty major recurring villain. However, in season 2, he leaves the show to star in a spin-off called Legends of Tomorrow. And in addition to that, multiple episodes of The Flash Season 2, as well as that respective season of Arrow, were entirely dedicated to setting up this spin-off show. Captain Cold never really returned to The Flash, and it just left the show feeling very strange, very empty, when this major character never returned. That would be like if Starscream left Transformers Animated after Season 1, and never came back because he was featuring in some other show. So that's what I'm referring to when I say connecting to the larger universe and the larger franchise hurts the specific show. Now we'll return to the Transformers Animated specific discussion, as in why doesn't it work within that show, in that world. So technically, we don't know how long Transformers Animated would have gone on for, as originally intended. Derek J. Wyatt has said that Season 4 would have wrapped everything up, whereas Marty Eisenberg has said that they had plans for many, many seasons. If Transformers Animated would have had 8 seasons or something, then swapping out the ensemble it actually makes sense. It's a good way to keep things fresh and mix things up, but if Season 4 was intended to be the final season, as I am doing it, then adding a main character out of nowhere feels very strange. Now keep in mind that Ironhide isn't Jazz. Ironhide was an extra. Jazz had a whole character arc of starting to see Sentinel's flaws and then choosing to stand by Optimus Prime's side, to the point where it'd be very, very difficult to imagine a 4th season in which Jazz isn't in that main cast. That was built up to perfectly over the previous seasons, whereas Ironhide only appeared in 4 episodes. Didn't speak in all of them, and throughout the whole show had under 10 lines. I want you to think about a show you've watched on TV, and now think of an extra within that show. Imagine if they were to join the main cast in the final season. Imagine if Toby Determined became a main cast member in the final season of Gravity Falls. Imagine if the Mike Cabbages guy joined Avatar The Last Airbender full time. Imagine if in a Scooby-Doo show, some sort of monster or criminal who was only in a few episodes prior just joined the Scooby Gang in the final season for every single episode. You don't need me to tell you that would be a very strange choice. The only reason that it would make sense for Transformers Animated is because of those external franchise reasons, but nothing within the show implies that Ironhide would have joined full-time. And it goes beyond that, even. See, in the TF Nation 2019 panel, where Marty Eisenberg laid out the story beats for Trial of Megatron, what they would have been, they tried to push Ironhide as kind of a loser, a nobody. Those are words that Sentinel calls him, a scrub, in order to sick him with Optimus, and as well narratively to establish him as an underdog. And this is essential if you're gonna be a main cast member in Transformers Animated. What differentiates this show from a lot of other shows is that the Autobots are always completely out of their league. The Decepticons have weapons, the Autobots have tools. Every time the Autobots grow in their skill level, the Decepticon threat just gets even larger. And in pretty much every other Transformers show, in continuity, the battle is completely even. Everyone's the same height. Whereas Transformers Animated really plays up the David versus Goliath theming. Quick side note, I'm curious how Jazz would have been played as an underdog, because he was usually on top of things throughout the show. I mean, how do you take the guy who's chill, has everything under control, and then turn him into a scrappy underdog without betraying his characterization? I'm curious what they would have done. But anyway, more to the point, it's a good thing that they tried this with Ironhide, but it doesn't work. And it's disingenuous with Ironhide's previous appearances in seasons 2 and 3. In Mission Accomplished, when Ironhide's platoon is under attack, he calls Ultra Magnus directly.
Ironhide to Ultra Magnus!
You know, if you're just a standard army private out there in the field and your squad goes under attack, you don't get to call Obama yourself, or whoever the president is. I don't know, there's so many. Later, in Where Is Thy Sting, when Ultra Magnus is attacked by Shockwave, Ironhide is walking around the Metroplex, the Autobot capital, as a first responder searching for Shockwave. If you're walking around the White House, even as a Secret Service member, you're not a nobody. So trying to retroactively call Ironhide a nobody contradicts everything we know about him from the previous episodes he's appeared in. I let Ironhide briefly join the main cast in Resurgence Parts 3 and 4, really just to throw a bone towards fans of the character, fans of the idea of main cast Ironhide, and especially giving that character his Earth mode, which is something I've never particularly cared about. That was just fan service for long-term fans of the channel who constantly asked why he didn't get it the first time around when I did these storyboards in high school. I think at the end of the day, the reason for these changes is that I don't want to make someone else's story, and I know that must be frustrating that the one person making the 4th season isn't following the guidelines, but to me it's just not as fun when you have no say in the creative process, when you're just filling in the gaps. I don't want to connect the dots when I could draw the whole picture from scratch, if that makes sense. It's just not as creatively fulfilling. I want to also point out that just because I put a lot of thought into this doesn't mean all of those thoughts are correct. I'm constantly second guessing my story decisions. For example, in Resurgence Part 4, Optimus has a line where he finally stands up to Megatron and says,
"I may not be a Magnus, Megatron, but a demagogue like you doesn't get to tell me whether or not I'm a hero. I am a hero, and you'll never tell me otherwise."
And I received a comment from Vicar and Flips Animations, who said, "My only problem with the whole episode is Optimus saying, 'I am a hero, and you'll never tell me otherwise.' It ruins his character from the first 3 seasons as a humble warrior who just wants to be acknowledged for his efforts. Optimus saying something so cocky is something the real Optimus would never do. It's just very uncool. And, when I thought about it, I think he's right. I think I mischaracterized Optimus with that line. And I had thought about it. I replied with, what I was trying to get across with that delivery and that line. But at the end of the day, I think that this comment is correct in that I didn't think it through enough. So just because I put thought into something doesn't mean that I'm gonna stand by it a year from now, but I'm fairly certain that I stand by my opinion about everything regarding Ironhide and his status as a main cast member. The answer to the second question is much more brief, which is, why did Bulkhead stay in the main cast? And I'm going to ask you a similar question to what I asked you earlier. Think about a TV show that's gone on for several seasons, and then imagine if they dropped one of the main characters for the final season. Imagine if Bart just wasn't in the final season of The Simpsons. Imagine if they dropped Ferb from Phineas and Ferb. Imagine if Windblade was largely written out of Cyberverse Season 3 and didn't even get a deluxe class toy, even though she's the second main character. That would be ridiculous. Once again, if this were, a multi-season show, you can swap out the ensemble every once in a while, but if this were the final season, ditching Bulkhead, and sorry, Sumdac as well, it doesn't make much sense. Behind the scenes, there were a lot more production-oriented reasons why reducing Bulkhead's role made sense. First of all, we probably had the least going on out of the main cast. One has to assume that Bill Fagerbakke had the least vocal versatility out of the main cast, because whereas almost every single lead voiced multiple characters, Bill Fagerbakke only voiced Bulkhead, as well as one episode of Hotshot and one episode of Master Disaster. In addition, most crucially, Bill Fagerbakke was having some serious health issues around the time of Transformers Animated Season 3, which I talk about in the Transwarp DVD commentary. It probably would have been good for him, the actor, to step back. Replacing him with Corey Burton, someone who has a massive range, would have been economically efficient. However, this might surprise you. I don't have Bill Fagerbakke on speed dial. I couldn't just call him up. He's not involved in this project. In addition, all of these voice actors are just my friends who are donating their time to this project they really don't care about. All the voice actors involved, most of them haven't actually seen these episodes, and they haven't seen Transformers Animated in the first place. Some of them didn't even know Transformers was a TV show too. They thought it was just the film series. They're just being very generous with their time and helping me out. So I'm not limited in the same way that they would have been production-wise in the actual fourth season. Bulkhead is, to me, just a very important part of the show and the show's DNA, and it would be a shame to lose him, especially in a final season like this. So I hope that justifies my decision-making process to a lot of you who have been wondering why I made these changes. Before I leave, I just want to say thank you to this channel's Patreon supporters. Not Kian, who is actually is Kian, it's me. I was just testing how it would work. And then my Patreon supporters that aren't me: Carly Gay, Chris Colucci, Adam Nicholson, Ish, Ellie Elrai, and Chris P3. Thank you for your support, and you'll have already seen this video by now because I'm uploading videos early to Patreon. If you liked discussion-based content like this, feel free to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to the channel. My goal is to hit 10,000 subscribers by June. And finally, just remember that no matter how strange and confusing the world seems these days, you are needed, you are loved, and you can't forget that. Thank you. Bye.